I'm going to try to pull a tarot card of the day during every talking video I do. King of Cups. That's a good one. Hello, good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you are. Hi, I'm glad you could join me for this little book haul I'm gonna film. I'm gonna show you a rather collective book haul from books I bought during little city trips, as well as some secondhand books I bought a few days ago. First, I'm going to show you the books I bought during my little trip to Paris. So this is the first one I got. I'm so excited about this one. I got this in the gift shop of the Catacombs in Paris, and I have been looking for this book everywhere, but I never found it, except for in the gift store of the Catacombs, which is extra cool. It's called Morbid Curiosities, Collections of the Uncommon and the Bizarre. It's written by Paul Gambino, if I pronounce that right. A fascinating insight into the strange world of collectors of the macabre. Morbid Curiosities features 18 unique collections and an extensive interview with each owner, explaining how and why they collect and showcasing their most remarkable acquisitions. She is gorgeous. Like, look at that. That is so cool and interesting. Cute. Next up, I went to the famous Shakespeare and Company bookstore in Paris, and I went to their little secondhand bookshop as well, and I found two books there. First one is the earliest English poems. I am absolutely obsessed with poetry. If I see a little cute secondhand poetry book, I will buy it. This was only €5, and yeah, it speaks for itself, I guess. It even has little maps. So cool. Then I found this absolutely gorgeous edition of Hamlet by Shakespeare. I just love it. It was only €3 too. Absolutely insane. And then, even cooler, right next to the Shakespeare and Company store, there were free books to take on, like, next to the pavement across the shop. So, of course I did. First book I found is called Shakespeare Identified, and I think it's just several plays of Shakespeare or scripts deeply analyzed, and I think that's very interesting and possibly useful for my major, as I'm an English literature major. Nice and pretentious. It is kind of like nearly falling apart. It is falling apart as we speak. But it was free, so. And then I found this nearly decaying book about I was holding it upside down. Oh, that really shows my intelligence, I guess. Um, it's called My Six Convicts, and it's about a psychologist's 3 years in Fort Leavenworth? Correct me if I'm wrong. I literally only read that and I was intrigued because I also love psychology and forensic psychology. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. So any psychology book, except for some, or forensic psychology book, I will have my hands on it, you bet. I will read you the preface of the book, because it's only half a page long. Recent events and the passage of time now make it possible to relate the human story that enlivened my research in drug addiction and criminality at Fort Leavenworth Penitentiary. Out of deference for my administrators and colleagues whom I held in great respect, and to the prisoners themselves, 6 of whom comprised my regular staff of assistants, I have indulged literary license in the use of names, places, and dates, and in the development of some of the episodes recorded. The dialogue passages do not represent total recall, while some of the conversations were of such a nature as to remain indelibly in my mind. In other instances, I have attempted simply to recapture the mood and content of what was said as accurately as my memory and decorum allow. This book is not a record of the research project. It is rather a reminiscent impression of the humors, whimsies, and tragedies of my 6 convict assistants. My world as they saw it, and their world as I saw it. Embarrassingly clever, they could have given me no end of trouble. Instead, they bore me a real affection and did me a great service, which I now acknowledge in the writing of this book. So yeah, a little mystery book I have never heard of, but it sounds very intriguing. Alright, next up, a few weeks later, I've decided to flee into the woods in a little cabin, live my little Thoreau life, away from society, except for one day where I went into the city in the Netherlands, and I found this absolutely gorgeous bookstore inside of a church. I will insert some pictures I took here. It was so gorgeous. And of course, I got myself 2 books. The first one I got is a collection of Edgar Allan Poe's Tales of Horror. I love Edgar Allan Poe. He's probably one of my favorite writers. I just love the way he writes. Obviously, he's a classic. I got a little bookmark with a picture from the church bookshop on it. It includes a bunch of his stories, like Morella, the Devil in the Belfry, The Fall of the House of Usher, which I've already read and is so good. The Murders in the Rue Morgue, A Descent into the Maelstrom, if I pronounce that right. Never Bet the Devil in Your Head, The Mask of the Red Death, The Telltale Heart, The Black Cat, and many, many more. And I'm very excited to get into this. And then I found this book, Paradise Rot. I've heard a lot of great things about it, but also I've never found it in a bookshop near me, and every time I was searching for it online it was really expensive or expensive shipping. But yeah, I finally came across it, and also with this gorgeous cover. I will also read you the blurb. Joe is in a strange new country for university and having a more peculiar time than most. A house with no walls, a roommate with no boundaries, and a home that seems ever more alive as the days pass. Jo's sensitivity and all her senses become increasingly heightened and fraught as the lines between bodies and plans, dreaming and wakefulness blur and mesh. This debut novel from a critically adored artist and musician presents a heady and hypersensual portrayal of sexual awakening and queer desire. Paradise Rot. Alright, moving on to the secondhand books I bought a few days ago. I bought a few. First of all, I bought a few poetry collections. As I told you, I'm a big fan of poetry, and I'm always looking to read new poetry or read poetry of authors I know and love. The first book I found, I will honestly say I was mainly captivated by its adorable cover, a puffin book of verse. Just look how cute that is. But turns out it's also a incredibly lovely book. Like, it's sectioned into different themes. Like, for example, the theme of birds and beasts. And each intro page of each theme has like a little cute drawing. It's just so cute. Like, it also has themes such as magic and romance, the night, and even Christmas. It's just so cute. It's so wholesome. Praise and thanksgiving, ballads and stories, homely things. Like, it's such a cute book. It's just absolutely adorable, and I'm so excited to read all these probably adorable poems. I've went through it a few days ago, and I've seen some poems I like and I already know, so I'm very excited to discover more. Then I got another poetry collection by W.B. Yeats. I have learned about him, of course, but I just want to get more into his poetry. And yeah, he's also like a major literary influence from especially the 20th century, so I'm just excited to go deeper into his poetic world. Then I also found a poetry collection by Thomas Hardy for only €2.50. Same story as the last one. I know a few of his poems, but I can't wait to get into his world more. And then I got a novel, The First Man by Albert Camus. I love him. I love him as a writer. I love absurdism. I want to read every single one of his works. I have read, obviously, The Outsider. I have read The Myth of Sisyphus, which is kind of my Bible in a way. So, yeah, this is his last unfinished novel before he passed away, and when I saw this in the secondhand bookshop, I almost jumped out of excitedness because I love Camus. Then another thing I am greatly interested in, and it's one of my really big special interests, I guess, which is cults. And I found a book about cults. And when I find a book about cults, again, I have to buy it. I do not care if it's I do not care. I have to read it. So this is the book Cults Uncovered, True Stories of Mind Control and Murder by Emily G. Thompson. Apparently she is also the host of Morbidology, a website and a podcast. I have not heard from it, but I will be looking that up. And she's also an investigative reporter, true crime author. So yeah, super cool. I'm so excited. I went through it yesterday and it looks so promising. It has a bunch of pictures too, like if you don't believe me, Christianity, secret religions. I do kind of have an obsession with cults, but like not in an admiring way. Like, don't get me wrong, this guy sucks, to put it lightly. I'm not a fan of him. I just think it's very intriguing to read about these people. Yeah, I also have a big affinity for religion, and I'm not really religious, which is ironic, but like, whatever. Next book is The History of Magic, From Alchemy to Witchcraft, From the Ice Age to the Present, by Chris Gosden. It's a pretty big book about, well, the history of magic, and as you can see, I do like magic quite a bit. Underneath this table, this little altar, if you will, I have a bunch of books about magic and stuff, so this is joining the pile. And then, last but not least, I found this book on discount for €7, and it's this gigantic book on, well, philosophers. An introduction to, well, every person that ever had a thought, it seems, because it's full of them. This is every name that's in this book. It also has a map and a timeline, which is very interesting. It's a mixture of both Eastern and Western philosophers, and yeah, it gives like a clear summary of who this guy was, what his philosophies were, and what was going on, basically. Yeah, I'm very excited to get into this and just annotate it and tab it like crazy. Only downside is that I think there are only 2 women in here, and I think there were more female philosophers than that, but okay. Alright, that was my book haul. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some recommendations from it. I hope some books intrigued you. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you have any other book recommendations that you think I should really read, let me know. And yeah, I'll see you soon.